secretly recorded from an undisclosed location deep within the mountains.
Welcome to the Artistic Bunker, the creative laboratory, the personal, patriotic refuge of a man on a mission. I'm dedicated to making the world a better place with my talents and skills, and along the way, try to deliver some knowledge, truth, and maybe a little something for you to ponder. I'm Gary. Thanks for being here. I appreciate your time. Let's get right to it. Well, I've got a lot I'm trying to pack into this episode. I'm going to talk about some advice I wish I had had 30 years ago when I was starting out, some advice for other artists. And I'm going to answer some questions from social media. But first, let's talk about chaos and order. Now, we all have a sphere of influence around us. We affect the people and the world around us. So it's good for us to self-examine sometimes and make sure of whether we are a good or bad influence to the world around us. It's good to assess your own life. And so the concept of order and chaos, I know that both need to exist. And I don't really have to give you a definition. Most of y'all understand the ideas of what order and chaos are. But I've noticed over time how the art world, it's kind of two different worlds. Let me explain. You have some artists like me, or artists that I aspire to be like, at least what I know of these artists. But it's art that brings happiness. You know, all good art brings emotion of some kind. That's part of why I think real art has a soul, and only a human can add that soul. Yeah, that's a jab at AI. But back to the art world and the two different kinds. There's people like me who try to make the world a better place. They try to bring happiness or a memorable scene or something that makes someone remember a time in the past, or something that just makes someone smile or makes them have a good feeling or makes them remember good times in their lives or emotions, good emotions. And then you have a whole other side. And a lot of it includes like modern contemporary type of art that just, oh, I got a phone call. I'll have to continue. Sorry about that. I'm back. Now, order and chaos. So I was describing there's one set of artists, kind of like myself, that tries to bring about positive emotions, good emotions, right? Where there's also the other side, which seems to be full of artists and the people that promote them that are intentionally trying to disrupt, intentionally trying to confront, to agitate. And a lot of the contemporary modern art seems to be that way. And I've been seeing that most of my life, even when I was young and I'd visit a gallery or a museum and I'd see some of these pieces of art, and it was like they were intentionally trying to disturb people in some way. And to me, I'm not that kind of artist. I can't subscribe to that kind of chaos. That's just not me. I've always understood art to be something that's supposed to improve the world around us, not make people have nightmares. I want somebody to see my art and smile. So I've seen that in the art world pretty much most of my adult life, especially. And man, what a metaphor for the world we live in as well, in general. You know, you got people that are trying to bring order, trying to bring peace, trying to bring calm, trying to improve the world, trying to support the things that are good about life. And then you got a whole other side that just really just wants to shake the bushes. They just want to cause a problem. They just want to aggravate everybody as if that's the way to fame. And yeah, you can be infamous, but there's no cause for that, man. So anyway, really the point is each of us has a responsibility to decide whether we are going to be an instrument of order, or are we going to be an instrument of chaos? Are we going to make the world better? Are we going to bring peace? I can't be chaotic like that. It's when it comes to art, and the chaotic things in my life I've tried to combat. I try to live a fairly peaceful life. Anyway, order and chaos. What are you adding to the world? Good question we need to ask. Good question. All right, so now I got a bit for other artists out there. I've been a working artist for more than 3 decades. Started before computers were even around, really. And I've been through a lot. I've both been employed by other folks for the first part of my career, and for the past 10 years, I've been self-employed as a contractor. So anyway, I got a little advice I wish I had heard 30 years ago. But anyway, just take it for what it is. It's probably going to sound a little unconventional, but hear me out. There's 3 main points. Don't follow your passion. Don't love yourself. And don't get lazy. Follow me on this. Don't follow your passion. You know, I heard that a lot growing up, especially as people recognized that I had some artistic ability. And you hear about that from time to time, people, you know, being able to follow their passion as their dream, you know, whatever that is. And, you know, the definition of passion is an extremely strong, barely controllable emotion. Now, to me, that sounds quite dangerous. You know, passion can be a good thing or it can be a bad thing. Now, when I say don't follow your passion, I'm speaking from somebody that lives in the real world, that knows that people have bills to pay, rent and utilities and cell phone and food and everything else you need to exist. So unless something you're passionate about is able to be turned into a steady income, Um, you need to, yes, work on that passion, work on it on the side, but you got to do what you got to do to live, man. And if your artistic ability isn't paying the bills, yes, work on it. Yes, develop it. But don't leave everything behind and do something foolish. And, you know, you've heard the term starving artist. It's a real thing, man. So I say be realistic. If you are going to follow any passionate feelings you have in life, keep them in check. Okay? Number 2, don't love yourself. Now, when I say this, what I'm meaning is don't be arrogant. Many artists have an ego problem. When I was younger, I had an ego problem. Some people still think I might. I know it's something that I try to keep in check. You know, just recently they said we hit 8 billion people in the world. So when you think of yourself, you are one of 8 billion. Now, that doesn't diminish the fact that you're an individual. That actually enhances the fact that you are a unique creature. So your potential is unknown. But you also need to be humble and realize that very few people are able to follow their passion or their artistic skill and actually follow it as a career. I've been blessed. I'm one of the few that has been blessed in that way. Not that I haven't worked other jobs. You know, I mean, I had bills to pay. So there were brief periods where I was doing art on the side, but helping install overhead doors or working at a wood chip mill. You know, I did a few things for just a little bit because I had ends to meet. So what we got so far is don't follow your passion. Don't love yourself. The third one is don't get lazy. You know, I've seen technology come around and become not just a tool for artists, but I've seen artists that depend almost solely on the technology they use. And look, I understand people have different artistic skills and designing skills, but don't use technology as a crutch. If you're going to really be an artist, you need to be an artist first. And I'm not saying that if you aren't able to draw or aren't able to paint, you're not really an artist. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is that you need to ensure that the work that you create is yours. And I've seen a lot of people. I've seen a lot of cheating. I've seen a lot of laziness. Especially here recently, there's a lot of people that are leaning on technology, leaning on software to do their job for them. And all that does is make you hate yourself. When you do things crooked, when you know you haven't put yourself into something, when you cut corners, when you don't meet a deadline, when you don't return a call, when you don't return an email, when you rush through something that you knew that you should have given more time, it eats at you. Don't get lazy. So in summary, don't follow your passion. Don't love yourself. Don't get lazy. And you know what? If it's God's will, you'll make a career as an artist. That's really the only explanation I have for me being able to do what I do. Anyway, hope that helps. All right, so now I'm going to go through some questions I got through social media and answer a few of them. I hadn't done that in a little while, so we're going to see what we got. I actually have several here from Stephen Allred. So we're just going to go down the list, all right? Do you screen print yourself? No, I actually do not. I have in the past. I mean, I worked at shops where I did everything and not just the art. I learned how to print on a manual press before automatic presses were even really around. So I've done it, but no, I don't do any of my own printing. Most of the work I do is for screen printers. Well, I'd say probably half of my work is for screen printing companies and the clients that they bring in. Sometimes they actually send clients directly to me. And I've been working with some shops for years and years. But I don't do any printing myself, and I don't worry with it. But knowing the process and knowing about it, knowing at least more than most artists, it does give me an edge because I understand the production end of it. I look at things from an engineering aspect. So there's that one. Okay. Have you made separations yourself, or does someone else rip or sep it for you? I learned how to do separations from channels and stuff in Photoshop. Gosh, I can't tell you how long ago. Because I understood, I kind of had an engineering background, kind of, as far as understanding screen printing. When computers came around, I kind of still, even today, the way I build art and the way I look at things is from a production standpoint. So, you know, I can do separations, but most of the time, the way that I create my art, it's pretty much good to go as I create it. I've got certain things I do and certain ways I go about certain, the way I use spot inks and I make sure that I have all my particulars in order before I start creating anything. And so, I usually create everything in Vector, in Illustrator. It's very rare that I do anything in Photoshop anymore because I've learned how to get that same feel, that same look with in Vector, in Illustrator, and it be controllable. I can control it and edit it to an extent. My style is not easy to edit. And it's just because of what it is. It's very painterly, very artistic. Let's see here. Next one is, noticed a lot of gradients. Do these become spot colors or CMYK sometimes? Well, I kind of answered that with that other question, but I'll clarify. What I do is I use tints of spot colors when I create art. And what that allows me to do is create something that's easy for me to manipulate, to separate the colors themselves through the colors themselves and get the type of control that I need to be able to have a file that's already good to go. All I got to do is add registration marks and color labels and make sure things are sized right and make sure there's no junk off the page, make sure all the fonts are outlined, all that kind of stuff. But as far as having to switch anything over, I'm already using spot colors. They're RGB based, Pantone. I usually use Pantone uncoated. But anyway, or maybe it's Pantone coated. I think it's uncoated. Anyway. And let's see, this is the last question from him. He said, when you add wording or fonts, are they hand drawn? Or do I find a font that works well or something in between? It depends on the project. I do have a handful of fonts that go very well with the style that I normally do, and I lean on those many times. But like recently, I did a piece for Ole Miss Law, and all the wording on that one was hand drawn, and it fit better it went better with the illustration, with the style of the art. So it really depends on it. Sometimes you just can't manipulate a font just right to get it to do what you want to do. If it's something strange, some twist, some morph that you're doing with it, and it just don't look right, sometimes you have to have the tenacity and the determination to say, well, I will just get a pen tool, or I'll just use the blob tool or whatever, and I'll draw it. And that's what you got to do. But anyway, I lean on them a lot, but there are times that I hand draw. Let's see here. Nathan Lieber. He had one question for me, but I think it's one that'll take a minute. He said, how do you develop your style, or how did you develop your style? And what programs and elements have you evolved to use now? Well, my style, I would say that probably the other artists, or the other, that's probably the easiest way, is just tell you other artists that I kind of admire and lean towards, I guess. As far as fine art, I'm a big fan of Americana artists, Thomas Hart Benton, Grant Wood, those kind of guys. I love people that shine a light on the common man. I really do. And then as far as kind of the other side of it, the illustration side of it, I guess, Ed Roth, the guy that did Ratfink, you can probably see that in a lot of the pieces that I do. Fred Davis, great illustrator. He used to illustrate for Mad Magazine and other things, and then he went on to illustrate for, I think it was, he used to do stuff for Georgia Bulldogs, and he really got a reputation as an illustrator doing that as well. But there's, it's I don't know. I'm still, honestly, sometimes I feel like I've found my style, and sometimes I feel like I'm still searching for it. So I don't know. That's just kind of where it's come from. Those influences, I guess, over the years. I like bold colors. I like bold lines. I like action, or at least a story. I like a story. I like art that has meaning. I like that it that at least is saying something. And I'm not meaning political and edgy. I'm talking about, it may be saying, hey, I remember fishing that day, because it's got a dock by a pond with a barn or something. I like the idea of people remembering my art because it helps them remember. Maybe that's what it is. As far as the software and stuff, I mentioned earlier that I started for computers. So I learned a lot of these. It was almost like drafting tools that you'd use to be able to do things in a certain way. I had to learn how to use a camera and other things in a dark room and stuff like that. I had to learn those principles at a very young age. So I was soaking it all up. I was learning all I could. And then computers came along and programs, and I've never had any, well, I tell you, I started to say I never had any training on any software, but I will take that back. The very first computer at the company that I worked at, when they first came around, it had a program called Aldus Freehand. Later on, it was bought by Macromedia, and it was a competitor for Illustrator. But anyway, it was the first program that they had on this old Mac computer that was huge. And I was just tickled I could do typesetting, because I was tired of doing typesetting in the dark room. I wasn't expecting to be able to draw pictures on it. You know, I still figured all that'd be hand done. So I've seen the software come around. I've seen it change. You know, I went from different things. I've always kind of enjoyed the vector more than the raster, even though, you know, Photoshop and things like that allow you a little more freedom. For some reason, my thought was I wanted to make something that could be reproduced. I didn't want people to have trouble reproducing what I create. So it kind of helped rein me in a little bit and keep me grounded, I guess. But now, you know, it wasn't until a couple of years ago that I got my first, well, it's like a generic version of a Cintiq, but one of those, you know, with the pen on the screen. And I'll tell you, I was happy that I waited for a while because the prices had come down, but part of me was sad that I'd waited because it changed how much I enjoy what I do. It feels so much more like I'm back kid in school sketching on notebook paper. It does. Sometimes I am able to lose myself a little bit in it, which I know is a good sign. Being able to find flow, the state of flow. But I lose myself in it sometimes when I'm really concentrating and I'm really trying to just do the very best that I can. That has really helped me really enjoy what I do a little bit more. So that was a great addition. Other than that, man, I still use older software. I still run older computers. I'm like the master of making do with what I got. And I don't know, maybe that's the Mississippi boy in me. I don't know, but I usually use stuff till it wears out. So, you know, every computer I've ever bought for this business since I started it a decade ago, every one of them still up and running, and I still have a use for them. So, hey, that's a blessing, man. That's a cost I haven't had to go into. So, but anyway, that was a great question. And you know, the thing is, and this goes to a little bit more of the advice that I would give to other artists. Be open to figuring out blaze your own trail. And when I say that, I mean, yes, you're going to be influenced by other people and pop, you know, what's popular at the moment and what's going on, the fads and the trends and the news and the things and yeah, okay, I get it. But find that style that really just represents you the best. Me, it's bold colors, a little bit of craziness, you know, just I don't know. I'm a little off anyway, so kind of goes with me. But you know, just blaze your own trail, man. That's part of not just being an artist, but living life, man. You know, we all have potential that is untapped. Go after it, man. All right? Hey, great questions. Y'all send me more questions. I love the questions. Go. So let me leave you with this. In the immortal words of Bill and Ted, be excellent to each other. God bless you. God bless America. Keep on rocking.